Hello, I'm the top loader, and you're watching the Spacies show. Well, come on, keep watching it. Don't look at me all day, hey. Let's not look at me all day, hey.
Since Spacies.
Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show. Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show. Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show. Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show. Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show.
Welcome to episode number 10.
Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show. Guess what, don't you know? It's the Spacies show.
Featuring the Sega Masters, Tim Smith, Tim Gadler, and Nick Smith.
It's the Spacies show, everybody!
G'day invaders and welcome to Sin Spacies, and we are live across Twitch, across Mixer, and also we are live on Book of Facebook. And I have got a very special episode here today. So I'm joined by 3 other former staff members from the Sega Hotline, and I'm going to introduce you through these guys. We've got Nick. How you doing?
Hi, how you going?
And I'm going to struggle with this. Tim and
Which
Timothy. You're going to be Tim, and the other guy's going to be Timothy.
No,
Am I in trouble? I feel like I'm in trouble.
So what? Is Tim Timothy or my Timothy?
The one speaking right now, pointing to himself, is Tim. Mr.
Okay.
Gadler, you're Tim. And
okay.
and Timothy, sorry, Smith. How you doing?
You can call me Gad.
How you going?
All right, Gads from now on. That will help.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because if I yell out Smith, then I got the other issue of the two twins. This is going smooth, guys. So for those of you who don't know, or you just tuned in wondering what this is all about, once upon a time, if you were to get stuck on a video game, you couldn't just go Google it. You had to actually phone up a hotline. Actually, I've got the sticker right here. There we are, the Sega Hotline. And you would get the hints and tips over the phone, and hopefully we would help you. But I'm just going to go through you guys one at a time. Nick, do you have a YouTube channel or anything you want to push, or?
No, not at this stage. I think people can find me through Twitter, which you usually sort of help promote.
That will be down below. Yep.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Brian. I'll look to do a little bit more sort of delving into my collection and sharing that over the coming weeks and months. So that'll be fun.
Okay. And Gads,
Yeah,
you got a YouTube channel, haven't you? I do know you have got one. This is not just...
yeah, I do, but I only touch it on a monthly basis because most of my work is all on Twitter, really. But I still don't know about pushing it any further. You know, so anyway, we'll see how we go.
It's
But, yeah, you'll find me-
it's a beast of a thing, YouTube. If you start it,
It is.
you got to go all in. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally understand. And Tim, are you doing... You don't have time for anything. So for those who don't know, Tim here runs the... Is it the hub?
The Blue Mountains Theatre and Community Hub in the Blue Mountains, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that in the Blue Mountains?
Yes.
like
Oh,
in it.
Right.
Fun for the
Can we
family.
edit this bit? It's awkward.
So what do you normally put on? What type of shows do you have there on a regular basis?
We have throughout the year we have about 150 performances going. It could be anything from we have the best of Australian acts, like we've got with Ian Moss coming back for a second show next year. We've had James Rain. There's community performing arts organisations and a whole range of different shows that we present. But HubCon was the first event of its kind this year, the Blue Mountains Pop Culture Expo, and that's where we got you guys together for the first time. It was like the first time in 25 years, and that was really special to me to get everyone together. And I really, in this forum, sincerely appreciate everyone's support and you guys coming along to be part of that. I think that was awesome.
No, it was a pretty epic event to attend. And again, for those who don't know, we had a photo taken with all of us together. And then one of you guys decided, oh, I'm going to put it up on Reddit. And it went to number 1. 96,000 upvotes. That's a thing. I'm not a big Reddit guy. I just got told to go to reddit.com and have a look, and it was on the front page staring back at me. And it was there for, wow, 6 hours or so at the top spot. So yeah, that was a really cool moment. And just on a side note, we are, like I said, live on Twitch, Mixer, and also on Facebook. We've got a few people commenting away. I do have to apologize in advance if I don't get to your comments throughout the show. That's because we're tending to the 10 questions that I've got loaded up on my funky new toy that I've got here, which is the Stream Deck. It's all loaded up with the questions ready to go if I don't break it. So we're going to get stuck into the first question, which is from Brian Thomas. Brian, take it away.
Hi, Brian. Hope you guys are having a good podcast today, so it's all Sega related. I really wanted to get this question out there because really I'm probably the only one asking it. I got Panda Dragon 2 here to emphasize what I'm talking about, and that's the Sega Saturn. Particularly its disastrous launch in North America and its failure against the Sony PlayStation. Rushing it out, rushing their games, rushing pretty much everything almost about it, including the hardware. Now, what would you guys do differently if you had to launch it? If it was up to me, I would have released it on the date they said they would have. I would have give each game more refinement, and most of all, add content that they should have added to actually give it more of a console exclusive experience. Give it something that makes it almost better than the arcade in some areas. Simple as that. Like they did with Fire's Mega Mix later on down the track. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good podcast, and I hope you can give me some good answers about the launch and how you would have done it differently.
There we go. Sorry. Okay, Brian, thank you very much for that. I got to ask you though, dude, you're asking former Sega staff members a question, and you're wearing a Flamin' Mario shirt. What's that about? And oh yeah, and also, do you have any lights in your house? Seriously. But yeah, so the question he was asking was basically, what would you have done differently with the Sega Saturn launch? This is a little after our time there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What
look-
would we... Yeah, you go first, Tim.
I think, I did. I was out of. I was pretty much out of gaming. I was in the different industry. I was in home entertainment by then, but I did follow the industry pretty closely because Sega was close to my heart, and I know that the Sega Saturn launch was so important for many reasons. I think, particularly because it was up against the new unknown, which was Sony's PlayStation, and even just thinking about the launch, and in the US when they said, we're going to launch this for $399, and then Sony came out saying with a PlayStation $299, and that caused a huge sort of uproar and turned things on its head for Sega. But I think, and this is something Nintendo does so well, is that it uses its flagship Mario so beautifully with each generation. So each generation, straight up, they have, or pretty close to straight up, they have a next-gen version of their, Mario. So, Super Mario Galaxy or Super Mario Odyssey. And with the Sega Saturn, there was, I don't think there was any kind of Sonic dedicated
Sonic
game.
Jam is the only one I can think of, and
Sonic 3D Blast as well.
And that just wasn't the game we were looking for. So it sent that Sonic 3D Blast or whatever it was called. That kind of sent panic. It told people that we're no longer really doing serious games anymore. That's the message it put forward, I think.
I agree, and I think without a sort of new sort of generation, next generation Sonic games straight off the bat, And then Sony, launched, and they had such great sort of third-party support as well. Once you got to the Tomb Raiders of the world and things like that, I think Sony really quickly cemented their place in the gaming industry. I think at the time, and I did spend some time at Sony Computer Entertainment when I left Sega, and I wasn't there for the launch of the PlayStation. I was there when they were distributing games for various platforms, and I was helping the guys out there.
Wiz and Liz.
Pugsy was actually quite an awesome little.
It was a good game, yeah.
But I think there's the early rumblings of what the PlayStation was, and I remember seeing some sort of early prototype designs and things that came through the office. It was very exciting, and I think the Sony brand was at that time and still is such a strong thing. I think Sega really dropped the ball in many ways. So I think pricing, that was out of the box already. But I think without a flagship, because Sonic was so popular and such an incredible success on the Mega Drive, that without having any sort of dedicated next-gen version of it, I think was a huge mistake.
Gads, you got any input, like something that you would do differently?
Okay, I might be a little bit controversial. For the record, I love the Saturn, and I love it even more since a contact of mine, Shane Batty, told me more about what was involved with the Saturn. And it was a rushed console. I mean, they had to build a console from scratch, and it only took about 1.5 years to do. So they rushed the whole thing. So I'm going to be a bit controversial here and say they shouldn't have released it. They should have kept their powder dry and waited for the Dreamcast to come out. I know, it's like they're all trying to keep up with the Joneses.
So what you're suggesting is wait 10 years between console launches?
Not necessarily.
No, because the Mega Drive came out in 1988, the Dreamcast was 98.
Yeah, but you've got to understand, well, why would we keep our powder dry? Okay. Because of the Saturn and it was all rushed, it was the beginning of the end for Sega. Would you agree on that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So in saying that, if that wasn't released and then they waited for some sort of in-between model between the Dreamcast and the Saturn and brought that out a bit later, then Sega might still be here as a console developing company, not just producing games.
I don't know. I think because then they were contending with Nintendo with the Nintendo 64 as well, and I think Sony cemented their place. Nintendo with the 64. I think if they waited, they would have been left too far. I think it was. My view is it's more software. I don't think the price. I know it was an early salvo from PlayStation to price it so competitively, $100 cheaper than the Saturn. But I think lack of software support. Yeah,
one thing though, the price difference. Everyone keeps going back to the that famous $299, and he walks off. The $399 price point got you a console with memory inbuilt and a game. No one ever talks about that, but the damage was already done with just that entry price point alone.
This is the thing. It's just hindsight is an amazing thing. At the end of the day, it's like, if they didn't do this and if they had have done that and all that, okay, that's great. But I totally understand the pressure on Sega at the time with the other competitors out there with Sony and Nintendo. They had to bring out something, but it just seemed like a rushed product, and it was a rushed product. It's still a great unit. It still is. I speak highly of it, but it just feels like it was, too rushed. Things were put into place properly. It's just
We're spending all our time criticising it, but we haven't actually put anything forward about what we would do differently. So, Nick, do you have a suggestion? You're the last resort before I put my 2 cents in.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, it was rushed in a sense. They felt the pressure from Sony and new players coming into the market. So there was certainly things they had to change up. And while they were still putting a lot of energy and resources into the Mega Drive and the Genesis, especially in North America, I think they weren't looking to the future and what was actually happening with the world of gaming at the time. So, you had your arcade games for many years, and that was the way to get the latest and the greatest, and you'd always go to the arcade and want that sort of premium experience. And the technology for the home consoles was catching up, and things were changing in the arcades, so you could no longer expect to go to the arcade and have the latest and greatest. To a certain degree, you could play that at home. And when the Saturn was launched, I don't think they'd focused enough on the next wave of games that could come through and really revolutionise home gaming. People were spending more time gaming. There was more money available as the gamers from the 80s were growing up and had jobs. And what they could really do was, take things in a new direction. But the first wave of games that came through for the Saturn just weren't cutting it, and I think that was really detrimental. So PlayStation, on the other hand, were releasing games that were new and innovative and offered a lot more to players, and Sega was sort of falling behind, and that sort of tipped the scale, in my opinion.
So I would have to say that the 32X is the main offender in all of this, and the fact that Sega of America and Sega of Japan kept bickering back and forth and not agreeing on anything. I would have loved to have seen them just not do the 32X at all. And all the money that they were hanging on to the sales from this thing, and they were just like really cashing in on that, and they were not really focused on what was their future going to be. They should have anticipated that other companies may come along and sideswipe them, which is exactly what Sony did. I would have loved to have seen them focus more on the Saturn, go all in on... they probably didn't think how important 3D graphics were going to be. Someone needed to be there to tell them that, the future was 3D. And day one, though, the biggest mistake for the Saturn was no decent Sonic title on launch. That had to be their number one top priority, and they failed. They just didn't do that. And it didn't have to be, it didn't need to be a 3D Sonic. It just needed to be a good outing.
Next gen, that's right.
Yeah. Like Sonic Mania has touches of 3D going around, but essentially it's still a 2D game. And they needed to focus on what they were strong at, and that was doing a decent... I mean, I'm looking at Sonic 3 in the background there. That's just such a top game. And if they had have just did something with the 2D being the main focus with 3D elements in the background, it just would have knocked it out of the park, I think.
Absolutely. That's what Nintendo did so well. They reinvented and enhanced the Mario experience with every generation, and I think that's a perfect example of what Sega should have done. They should have capitalized on Sonic. I think what was one of their flagship titles at launch or near launch? I think it was Virtua Fighter or something like that.
Virtual Fighter, and the first game that I remember seeing out of the box when I was at the Hyper magazine actually was Daytona, and I just remember them loading that up and thinking, this is dreadful. This is really bad. It was choppy, the pop-ups. It was just not the game they wanted, and it was alarm bells for that system when I first saw that game. It was just like, this is just terrible. I remember Stuart Clark. He was actually muttering at the time, going, "Oh my God, this is so bad, guys! You got no idea how bad this is." I still remember that to this day when he was looking at that for the first time. Anyway, we've got 9 questions to get through. So, Brian, thank you very much. We're going to rock into the next question.
Thank you, Brian.
This one is from Tommy Ted. I hope you get better, by the way, Tommy. I know you've been pretty ill for the last few weeks. But Tommy, please take it away.
Hi guys, Tommy here. Seeing it's got to be under a minute, I'll keep it brief. And maybe I'll be on the personal side, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm kind of curious as to why you guys departed Sega Ozisoft. I've heard in previous stories how amazing it was to work there. It's just got me wondering why you guys left. Was it by choice or otherwise? So, yeah, let us know. Thanks, guys. Relax, I can see the timer going. I know damn well it's within a minute. God, you're so impatient.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. And Tommy, he's actually watching live, so that's a huge bonus. Glad you're well enough to at least watch it. I hope you get better. I hope it's nothing too serious. Walk it off. No, joking. I don't know what you're going through, but I hope it's nothing too bad. But just trying to get back to your question in a moment. There's so much going on here. It's ridiculous. Just hang on a second. Oh, okay. So this one, he's just basically asking, why did we leave?
Okay. Who was the first?
This has got 4 different answers, I reckon, and I think they're all quite personal. I'll start with you, Nick. Sorry, you're just on the left. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I was on the hotline for a year or two, and we were always writing different things. There was the in-house magazine, Sega Zone. There was the publishing that would happen from news agents. There was Megazone and Hyper as well, and I started to sort of dabble in a little bit of that. But after I was still at the hotline, there was an opportunity to work with one of the guys on the Sega Roadshow, which was the big display that would be taken around to the different shopping centres up and down the.
That would have been fun. I reckon that would have been. I did 1 or 2 roadshows when it was still under Ozisoft. Yeah.
It was cool. And there was this company called Adrenaline. They'd put together this pretty big display. It was like futuristic. It had like faux concrete slabs that had been sort of blasted away, and it was all this sort of exposed sort of metal that had been sort of rusted.
Did you get any photos?
I don't think we did, and they're
we
probably
just
around.
didn't take photos back in that era. It's not like now you take selfies in the bathroom and whatever. I was the only one I think that ever took a camera in, except for 1 or 2 others, and that's it.
But it was film, though, wasn't it? Film was a hassle.
It was a huge hassle, and expensive. Yeah, exactly.
We didn't look so much to the future then, and looking back, it was probably a pretty big opportunity to sort of save some of those moments. So
we could have been cleaning up on YouTube right about now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was doing the road shows, and for I can't remember how long, maybe 6 months, and I think I got a bit tired of the traveling, and my other passion is comic books, and besides video games. So I'd been shopping at King's Comics for a long time in Sydney, and I bugged the guys for a job there for a long time, and eventually they said yes, and I sort of went, okay, well, this is my transition from the gaming world to the comic world, and enjoying that, and I was there for about 4 or 5 years. So I didn't have a real job per se for a long time. And along the way, I was writing for other magazines like Hyper, Nintendo magazine, Time Zone magazine. There was like a trading card magazine during the boom as well.
Have you got any back issues of Time Zone magazine? I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've got several of them.
You got to post them up on Twitter. That'd be cool to see those.
Okay, I'll dig them up. And there's fun memories like going to Time Zone headquarters and spending 8 hours pretty much from morning till when they closed playing Mortal Kombat 2. So all the moves, all the fatalities and the babalities and all that sort of stuff. It was pretty cool.
I got Emerald Rangers asking. Now I'm curious to hear what it was like to work for King's Comics. That's another video. So sorry. Nice try there, Emerald, to derail the podcast.
Hey, no, that's cool.
Sorry, it's not a podcast. The show.
Donta mi akiyo.
So, Gads, going on to you.
Oh, I think I was the last one to leave. I think I was.
I'm going to hold the fort.
You're still there.
He's still running it secretly, by the way.
Yeah. I had an interesting exit, and I haven't talked about it before. And I think, I don't think any of you other guys were there at that point. And
was that during the the premium service at that point.
Yeah,
00
yeah.
double
It's not-
5.
yeah, it wasn't. It was before. It was before they sent the business over to Bondi Junction and sold it off to a telemarketing company.
Right, yeah.
It was before that. It was in between that. And Kaz wasn't there anymore. There was some red-headed woman there. And I can't remember her name. But she was nothing like Kaz. She was very strict and down the line and just sapped the energy out of the place. And
There's no
she
serious
was
fun.
she wasn't very serious. Yeah. But
Serious fun.
she started the process of not allowing the staffers to play games
On a gaming hotline.
on a gaming hotline. So what
Genius!
So what she did is that she took all the games and put them into one of the end offices. And so there was a situation on the weekend where a kid was ringing up about a game and there was no walkthrough for it. And so I needed to get the game. And so there was me and her nephew that was working there.
Oh, wow.
So the nephew says, "Well, why don't we try and get into the room? We've got to find out some way to help out the kid." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And so what I did, I figured out a way to get over the door and into the room, get the game, then come back out.
And you broke in.
Now, so basically, I
dun,
broke
dun, 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 dun.
in. And look, in hindsight, it was a bloody dumb thing to do. I could have but look, I wanted to help the kid out. So anyway, I get dragged into the office the next day, and the nephew grasped on me. He just dobbed me in, saying, "Now the funny thing is, the nephew got in there as well. All right, and they said, well, we're going to have to review your position here in the company." I said, "Well, look, come on, I'm trying to help someone else." And
I would hire a person that was going to that much effort to help someone out. That's just short of wearing a bloody cape. You know what I mean? That's the kind of person I'd want working on my hotline.
And that's the sort of person I am with my students nowadays.
Yeah.
Like I do everything to help them out to learn about things. Okay. So anyway, I was getting between the point of getting fired and quitting, and pretty much at the point I quit, they fired me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
All right.
I was so pissed off about it. But in hindsight, it's probably the best thing because then,
the long and the short of it is you got fired because of breaking and entering. Okay.
yeah, pretty much.
The place is changing. The place is definitely changing.
Tim, what about yourself?
Right. So my time, I spent a couple of years at Sega started on the hotline, and then sort of quickly moved into a position where I was assistant direct marketing manager to Karen there. So that involved sort of helping administer the Sega Club and all those aspects of it. And I mean, that was fantastic for me because when I finished school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So
None of us did.
None of us did, but
No
to get the job on the hotline, I mean, effectively we were paid to play games. And that was brilliant. And then I sort of moved to assistant direct marketing manager, and then from there, like all you guys, I was doing writing for the different in-house magazines, Megazone and Sega Zone, and then I thought maybe I could go out there and freelance this stuff, and I spent like Nick. I wrote for Hyper and Time Zone magazine. I worked at Time Zone at Bondi Junction for about 6 months. And that was interesting.
Yes.
Also appeared on the Channel 9 TV show with Nick as well, The Zone, which was a lot of fun. And then I also worked for Sony Computer Entertainment. So That was pre-PlayStation. They had, like Wiz and Liz and Pugsy, and I was helping them write 0055 recorded hint lines. And so I was writing them, playing the game, writing all that content, and then doing the actual voiceover, and that was really time-consuming. That was a big job in itself. But through everything, I needed to. That was the sort of end for me within the games industry at that time, because Shelley, who was one of the people that worked on Sega Zone and Mega Zone, the in-house
Shelley Kelly.
She knew Andre, who was also one of the marketing team from Sega Ozisoft, had moved over to Sony, and she contacted me. She knew Andre still, and said, "Look, Tim's looking for." Andre had spoken with Shelley and said, "Tim's looking for full-time work," and Shelley said, "Well, she'd moved to Polygram Video in the home entertainment industry," and that's where I sort of started as a sort of marketing assistant there, and that's where I've spent a good part of my career before I sort of even thought I'd be where I am now. But so sometimes, I guess, left for various reasons. Also, I didn't really like the thought of, with the Sega Hotline, for me, that sort of premium service, I don't even know how much it was at the time, 55 cents a minute or something. That didn't sit well with me, when sometimes with games, you would need to help people, and sometimes you'd be on there for, depending on the complexity of the game, for 15, 20 minutes. It cost them a fortune, and that kind of thing really didn't sit well.
So I'm mindful of the time. I'm going to just make my answer brief, but my answer is essentially the same as yours, Tim. I wasn't lucky enough, though, to dive into something as cool as what you did after yours, but I got the writing on the wall that ours were being cut back. That was one. And two, they were looking at turning it into a premium model. And I didn't want the stress and pressure of, the clock's ticking and the person's going to get aggro on the line saying, "Well, mate, I'm paying for this." And you're still trying to scrounge around and look for the answers of what it is they're asking about. And sometimes you just didn't have the answer. Sometimes the question was just, you couldn't work out what it is they were asking for, and you just had to say, "Sorry, we can't help you." That was sometimes the outcome. So I ended up thinking, well, what else can I do? And I ended up landing on a job at the Gamesman, because I figured, well, what else could be as cool as working on a hotline for gaming, maybe working in a game shop? So I did that for about a year and a half before falling onto bad times after that. It was not really getting on my feet until at least 5 years after. It was a pretty rough patch. But to answer your question, we didn't leave because we wanted to. We kind of all just had to. It was just the way it worked out. We would be still working there today. Someone's asking, was the hotline at the gaming hotline premium prices cheaper than the old sex lines? I wouldn't know.
You could probably draw you out longer.
We're gonna move along. Not touching that one. So just gonna pop up my next question. Someone had to, didn't they? The next question is from the Bitwar veterans. We're only up to question 3, guys. We've got to move along. Bitwar, what have you got for us?
Hello and greetings from Tokyo, Japan, from Max Inventory
and Meow Tai Ching,
and we are
the Bit
War Veterans. The year is 1990X.
And Sega has asked you to develop one final add-on for the Genesis or Mega Drive. What is that add-on? And what does it do?
Okay, so thanks for that, Bitwar veterans, and I know Meow Tai Ching's watching, so this is very important we get this right.
What is the right answer?
What is the right answer? I don't know. Maybe one that self-destructs and stops Sega going on the path of the Tower of Power. Do you know that I brought along the Tower of Power, which had the Mega Drive, Mega CD underneath, 32X, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic 3 on top. It's not complete. I mean, that's what most people regard as the Tower of Power, but for it to have its final form It needs, yeah, it's not even at level 9,000. It needs to have the karaoke machine on the side.
Oh.
So there was a karaoke system that was
that's right. Yeah.
released in Japan only, and I have never seen it. It's just too expensive. And if you really want to get technical, you could probably put a Telegenesis on the back of it. Just to really flesh it out. Why half do this?
What about the was there, from memory, was there a Sega Master System adapter for the Mega Drive?
Yeah,
or
the
not?
power-based
Yeah,
converter. I can't remember.
Oh, cool.
There's the power base of. I couldn't get a Mega Drive edition, so I ended up with a Genesis edition. Look at that dust. And still in its foam, still still runs. But I'd have to answer this question. I would like an adapter add-on that allowed you to copy games.
Oh.
Okay.
I have such a thing.
Oh, that's right.
Lots of floppy disks.
Discs go in there, cartridges go on top. You put an operating disc in there, and then you could end up moving the games from cartridge to disc. And it can only get up to, it's got 8C on there, so the 8 stands for 8 megabits of power. And the C stands for copy, because there were some of these where you couldn't copy. The first one I got of these, you couldn't copy the games, but this one allowed you to copy, and the company is called Sang-Ting.
Sang-Ting.
And they sold at least 608,000 of these. That's the number.
That's an amazing thing.
And it still works.
They made 608,000 of them. Doesn't mean that they sold them all.
I reckon they would have. I'm pretty sure they sold all of these. These were going like hotcakes at the time, and you had to be knowing which dodgy store was selling them. That was
what I would have liked to have seen as a peripheral, and I know there was, even when I was there was talk about it, was a sort of VR system or platform for the Mega Drive, and I think that would have been very, very cool. I know there was, from memory, there was some early testing of it. I don't know where it ever got to, but in actual fact, if they progressed it with any kind of success, it could have actually, as part of the launch of the Saturn, it could have formed a very cool peripheral for the launch of Saturn as well, if they had some sort of early testing with a Mega Drive version of it.
There's actually a video game show in the UK, I think it was, and they had someone who was traveling to America acting as a correspondent. They were kind of hinting at something like that being developed, but it never eventuated. So it definitely was in the works. But have you seen how Mega Drive handles 3D polygon hard driving, anyone? It's like 2 frames per second. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Nick, you got an answer there for a peripheral?
Yeah, I think I had to think about this. It's a tricky one because there was so many already out there and accessories. And I was just sort of thinking about the arcade experience and how that could translate at home. There was games at the time from Sega where they were using like Laserdisc technology to create things like Colosseum, where you had that sort of 3D effect coming up out of the game. And I thought, well, how could you kind of replicate that at home? And could you really reduce the technology and make that something fun and more interactive as well? So while Tim had that sort of thought along sort of the VR side of things, I was like, how could you do like a holographic representation of the game you were playing? Whether it was like Sonic or like one of the fighting games, it would have looked pretty cool.
To be honest, though, you can't even get that in 2019. So,
No.
So yeah, that would have been really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers your question there, Miao Ti Ching. Oh, hang on. She's actually saying that we covered that VR add-on on one of the first episodes of our podcast. All right. Well,
all right.
I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, someone's answered hologram Shaq Fu. No thanks. No.
No.
The Denny DeVito. All right, so the next question is from Sega Head, or as he would pronounce it, Sega
Yay.
Head. We'll talk a bit about the pronunciation thing in a bit. But anyways, Sega Head, take it away.
Yes, it's me, Sega Head again, and I'm here to ask you a question very quickly. A question directed at Synth Spacies and his posse. Can you guys name a situation that is completely random, yet also completely fitting to a certain Sega character? For example, imagine in Star Wars the battle against the Death Star. You got the Millennium Falcon, you got X-Wings and a bunch of other spaceships all shooting at the Death Star. Wouldn't it be awesome if all of a sudden Opa Opa came along, blasted the hell out of the Death Star and he saved the day? Hooray! See what I mean? Completely random situation, but fitting, because Star Wars, space, battles in space, Opa Opa, spaceship, blast stuff up. There you go, makes sense. See if you can think of something random but fitting for, say, Alex Kidd, or hell, Sonic, whatever comes to mind. That's my question. I'm certain no one else would have asked it. I'm running out of time. Thank you very much for watching all of my stuff within this video. Thank you very much. Goodbye!
All right, thanks for that, Sega Head. Wow, I'm really struggling with this one, I'll be honest. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, Conan the Barbarian is about to make a striking blow, and then all of a sudden Gilius Thunderhead comes out and takes him on, this little midget dwarf. that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. Has anyone else got a better answer than that? Because that's the only thing I can think of on the fly.
What about the Centurion guy from Altered Beast, rising up against Rocky 7?
Is this before or after he's rise from his grave?
Yeah, rise from your grave. He gets up.
I did have something. I thought, with Jet Grind Radio, did you guys play that one back in the day?
Oh, definitely.
Like all those guys, all the characters sort of out and about in a real setting in a movie might be like a great way to sort of introduce one of those James Bond movies. Are they always open with like a massive action sequence?
Actually, if they made a movie on Jet Set Radio, I'd watch that. I reckon that would be cool. About these punk rollerbladers going up against the fuzz.
Exactly, or something.
With all that hype and energy from that soundtrack. That soundtrack's probably. I won't touch on that because that's for a future question. We'll move on. So, Tim, have you got an answer? Oh, Gads. Sorry,
yes, Gads. So we all know how Sonic first appeared, and that was in Rad Racer.
Yes.
I was going to say
yes.
The next Fast and the Furious, there'd be a guy with his car and Sonic's hanging from the...
That'd be a nice little touch. Yes, a nice little cameo.
Awesome, Timmy.
I hate Fast and the Furious, but I think I would just watch it for that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Mm.
We've got a comment here saying Akira from Virtua Fighter beating Daniel-san in Karate Kid. And he's also come up with Ernest Goes to Fantasy Zone.
Welcome to the Fantasy Zone.
And I don't think we've got any other answers there to go for that one. So I hope that answers your question. That was a really good lot of effort that he put into that video. And that's a reminder that if anyone's got any videos that they would like to put forward for episode number 11 of the Synth Spacies show, don't wait for me to put the announcement out there. Send it in, synthspacies@gmail.com. And then that way I can have all the questions loaded up. Just a little side note, I didn't get the 10th question until the last minute, and I had people this morning when I woke up saying, is it too late to send in some questions? Yes, it's too late. I got to load them up the night before, so don't wait until the last minute. Send them in throughout the month. Don't wait until you get prompted. So,
do all your followers sound like that?
Yes. Is it too late? The next question is from Stewie. Stewie, please. Stewie, take it away, please.
Hi guys, it's Stewie here. Just wanted to throw you a wee question for your show. During your hotline years, did you ever come across any particular game or games that you were given obviously the assignment to be able to do the run through that you found particularly difficult, and that you were so glad that obviously when you finally managed it, and you were able to say, thank goodness I can put that to bed. Thanks guys, and keep up the great work. Bye.
Oh, sorry, the stuff that goes on off air. Okay.
Put down the needle.
All right, Gads, this is yours, mate. This is yours.
Okay, so we've recent gathering at Tim's HubCon. We did our panel, and a guy by the name of Nathaniel came up and says, I just wanted to thank you. And I go, well, what for? He said, it was your walkthrough that you did for Flashback that helped me complete the game. And I was absolutely dumbstruck by it. I never believed that something I did back in, what was it, 92? When Flashback came out?
A little later.
Yeah, 92, 93.
93.
A guy would actually came up to me and thanked me for it. And I was absolutely mind-blown by it all. And the effort that I had to go through to actually create the walkthrough was amazing itself. I didn't get paid much for it. But it was just that one guy, after several decades, to come up and thank me for it, made it all up. Yeah, that was the best thing. So
You were paid. You were paid in hedgehog tears.
Yeah, $50. Yeah, so that was definitely one for me. Yeah.
In the early days of the hotline, I mean, I was never good at the walkthroughs. I'll be honest. Reviews were more my thing for the magazine. So those of you who don't know, we didn't just tend the hotline and answer calls. We also had side projects like writing up promotional material for games that were coming out, answering questions for marketing people about what games should they be promoting, test playing games. So I was always more on that side of the of operations, I guess you could say. And but there was one game that I did try to take on and do a write through, and it was just a disaster, and that was Lemmings. It was writing that out was just an absolute nightmare, because you're trying to explain something that is so intricate into words. It was just painful without the use of pictures and diagrams. It was really painful. Tim, you got something?
I think from memory, and because particularly the RPGs and adventure games were so complex, we all sort of tried to specialize in certain areas, and because you just couldn't do it all, like Ultima 4 and all those kind of games.
Yeah, that was Brett's.
But I did Shining in the Darkness, and even which I still have such fond, vivid memories of. But those labyrinths was so complex. Sometimes you couldn't help it. Labyrinths. You couldn't. People would call, and
how do you explain that over the phone? It's just ridiculous.
So sometimes you just had to be there, and even just be an ear for someone to go, I know where you're at, and just have
I know how you feel. I know what you're going through.
I think that was really helpful in its own way, that people would know that, okay, it's not just me. I've just got to keep pushing through, and people would push through, and they'd make it. But sometimes there wasn't an easy answer, and I think. But I think so. Not only just to be there to physically help people if you could, but also just to be there to reassure them that it's a really hard game. This is not something we can solve over the phone. But
we would send out maps as well.
I feel you. Yeah.
We would sometimes send out maps, so that was at least something that we would offer as a service. But it wasn't. The long and the short of it is the hotline wasn't as professional as we would have liked to have had it in hindsight. But we were just kids. It was just like running a high school Sega fan club, essentially. It was essentially what it was.
When I started the hotline, and Nick, we were like 18. We were 18.
We were kids.
That's all. That's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, bro.
Yeah, Nick, I was just going to ask you if you got a game that you can remember doing a walkthrough or some sort of a guide.
I think there wasn't one that specifically came to memory, except for like all the old RPGs, and we tried to sort of play as much of those as we could, but we always knew the same spots that people would get stuck in. So, they'd start talking about a spot and you just get a feel. But, part of the fun of being on the hotline and helping run the Sega Club back in the day was like getting all this mail. So we used to get like tons of letters from people, and sometimes there'd be maps and hints and cheats and stuff like that people had created themselves for games, and then we'd be able to incorporate that into our database as well. And so, there was a lot of time we'd sort of think about, creating maps and, trying to source more help where we could. And sometimes it would come from fans, and that was awesome.
Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. I've actually got some of those maps hidden in the back there that were sent in. I kept on to Phantasy Star and Wonder Boy and Monster Land. And cool story with the Monsterland one is that I 20 odd years later, I stalked. I tried to find out if I could get in contact with this guy, and he had his name on the guide, and I thought it's a pretty unique name. It would be pretty easy to find that. So I messaged the guy who matched his name on Facebook, and I said, "Do you remember sending in as a kid a guide to a game just by chance?" And I introduced myself as a former Sega staff member, and he replied straight away, "Oh, you mean Wonder Boy Monsterland?" So he remembered all these years later sending that in, and I tried to see if I could get him to be interviewed for the channel, and he said, "No, I want to remain anonymous." So so frustrating. That could have been a really cool story, but at least I reached out to him and let him know that I've still got that guide. So
well, he's the Prime Minister. I mean, hey.
Thank you very much for that, Stewie. I hope that helped. The next one is from Retro Kaiser, who's lurking in the comments section right now as we speak. And I do mean lurk, because this question is weird. Take it away, Retro. Or is it your cat that's asking this one?
Hello there. This is Luna, Retro Kaiser's cat, and I've got a question for you. Now, with the Sega Hotline, did you ever get any really steamy calls? I mean, really steamy calls, like the juicy stuff. Come on, you can tell me. Anyway, thanks.
No, Timmy, no.
Bad kitty. Bad kitty.
Still cat.
Before we answer this, Emerald, you are in the comments section. What do you do in your day? Like, you just sit there with the camera. Oh, I need to come up with a video. What can I do? Oh, look, there's the cat. We used to get a lot of. I'll answer this one to a degree. We never got any saucy phone calls, but we used to get a lot of bored housewives. That was a big common thing.
Yeah.
And they were always playing the same game. And I don't know. I think they kind of tried to connect with us, and we were just too young and stupid. Well, I'll speak for myself in this case. Too young and stupid. I went to an all-boys school, so I just didn't get any of that. I didn't connect if they were trying to come onto me. I wouldn't have picked it up. My radar was just dead. So
we get people calling and asking for the same person, and sometimes it would be mums at home or bored housewives or whatever. And I think we were very young.
Gads, it's for you.
Again,
but ultimately,
Heidi's on the line. Heidi's on the line again.
Maybe Gads was running another sort of hotline.
Yeah, call me later.
The closest.
There was the one time that we did.
There was one time.
Saucy. There was one time, but it wasn't a call. I was just being good guy Tim, and
That's how it starts.
This woman rings up. She goes, "Oh, look, I've got kids. You know, I can't afford a Mega Drive and all that." And I felt really sorry for her. And I said, "Look, I'll tell you what, because I had a couple of Mega Drives at home. I said, how about you borrow my Mega Drive, see how you go, have a bit of fun with it, and I'll bring a few games around." No worries, great. So went out somewhere in the western suburbs of Sydney. Went out there, and it's like a fibro house. Knocked on the door.
What? You actually met one of them?
I actually met one. Yeah.
You lunatic!
I know, it was a lunatic back then. I mean, what a bloody dumb thing to do even back then. But I was just being a nice guy. Look, I'm a guy from a country town being nice. Okay, so I go out there, knocked on the door. She goes,
How did you survive the big smoke?
I don't know.
Sorry, anyway,
You guys, you helped me.
Go on.
But anyway, I open up the door, and the first thing I see is cockroaches scattering about.
Oh, the kids.
That was one. And then there was a toddler on its back, on the ground there, and seriously, a cockroach scattered over that. And I'm like, this is weird. Anyway, I thought, look, not everyone lives a perfect life. I get that. So anyway, so I set it up for this woman, and she's going, "Oh, can you show me a few of the games?" And so anyway, I'm there. It's like that, and we're on the couch, and I just noticed she's getting closer and closer and closer, and then I turn to her. I don't know what she says. She goes, "Oh, you know, I can't remember." And
She said, "You're a bit of all right."
Well,
nice joystick.
It wasn't joystick; it was a joypad. Nice joypad. And she leaned over, and I've just gone, oh, just knocked her away, and I've gone bolting out. And I get back in the car, drive off. I get back home, and then I realised...
She was running like the Terminator. She was running like the Terminator 2 after.
And then I get home, I'm going, well, that was an experience. And then once again, I've gone, damn, I've left me games and my Mega Drive there.
He's got to go back and get his hat.
I had to go back a few days later, and I said, "Oh, look, I'm here to pick up the games," and she's like in a grumpy mood. Oh, okay, so get them all. Cockroaches, food everywhere. like
oh no!
Oh man!
She goes, "So why don't you like me?" I said, "Look, I'm not here. I thought I was just being a nice guy, help you out, but you had other intentions." "I wasn't that way at all." And then she started getting more angry, and I'm just quickly picking up everything. And I scurried out to the car, and she came bolting out. She says, "Why don't you love me?" It was seriously like the Terminator. She flung herself on top of that little Mazda 121 that I had.
The bubble,
the jelly bean.
The TARDIS.
The jelly bean. Yeah. And she jumped onto the bonnet.
I was joking.
I'm not joking. And I'm backing out, and she's saying, "Trying to come back, you beep beep." And
I can hear the Terminator 2 music now. Dun, 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 dun.
And I stopped the car, and she got off the bonnet, and she was coming around, and then I just sped off, and all I could see in the mirror was this. Yes. So
lesson learned.
That was it. Oh my God, was it ever? I've just been a nice guy, and people, they're just crazy.
Took advantage of you.
They take advantage of me.
And that's been dating tips by Tim Gadler.
What not to do.
I had a heavy breather on the line once.
Oh really?
Yeah. It was a mouth breather waiting for the code to turn the blood code on for Mortal Kombat. That's as saucy as it got for me.
Nick, did you ever visit anyone's house? Or...
No stranger danger stories from me, unfortunately. And but there were a few friends that would call and ask you in particular, and we all had that, and that was fun, and we were naive, and it was just Timmy took it to the next level.
That's going in the highlights for sure.
But I was
welcome to the next level, Tim.
Yes, I was just following the company ethos. I
don't remember where it said anywhere in the policy booklet or manual to go visit these people.
No, I think it was page 29A.
Yeah, okay. Retro Kaiser, thank you very much for that question. I really mean that.
Thanks.
The next one is from the top loader. Now, he has kept under a minute this time. So, top loader, please take it away.
So, it's an old Sega Spacies show now, is it? Well, don't I feel left out? What are we going to do about that? Nothing. I'm just going to ask a quick little question. So my question is, when you guys were working at the Sega Hotline all together as comrades, brothers in arms, you get the idea where I'm going with this, etc., etc. Did you actually ever prank each other on the phone?
Hey, dickhead, do you have the number for the Nintendo Hotline? You're such a f***head.
Surely something would have went down in those backdoor rooms in that hotline area. Non-sexually, of course. This is a G-rated show. Let's keep those stories to yourselves. Yeah. You can tell me later.
Thank you very much for that. So, you guys don't reckon we did? I know very much we did. I do have... Not each other, though. It was staff members.
From upstairs?
Yeah, men.
I know.
Was it men? Was it short for Mineshka?
Yeah. Mineshka.
She was a secretary or the receptionist. Sorry, it's a receptionist. And she used to get. You'd answer. There'd be calls in the queue. God knows how long she waited on hold to get through. And she'd answer and hello. Yes. This is Jessica here again. Yeah, I'm only free. I'm a genius. She said all day long with that, and it took me a week to work out who it was. I didn't know. One day I was walking past. It was upstairs, and I was walking past, and I heard her doing it, and it was like, "It's you!" But so you guys, no,
I don't think so. No, it was all very professional, as you can tell.
Okay, am I the only one that prank called Nintendo?
Yes, probably yes.
You guys didn't do that at all.
No.
I would always ring them up and ask them when's Sonic coming out. Why haven't you got Alex Kidd? We want Alex Kidd on the NES. I'm not going to buy one until I would prank call him, and in the end I would actually cave in and say, you do realize this is the Sega Hotline here, and he'd be like, not impressed one bit. They were very. I was trying to get a bit of rapport with one of them at least, but they were just not interested. I reckon they had more bosses and stuff looking over their shoulder than what we had.
Yeah.
So, top loader, sorry to disappoint you. We don't have a cool story for that one. We were too busy playing the games. Like
no cockroaches.
No. That's a very short answer to that one. No stories? No? Okay.
No.
All right.
I can't remember.
No, that's the only thing I've got. Is
I think we were too close to each other.
Yeah, if you were pranking, you could hear it in the other room. But
and we had prank callers. Like, you know, the guy that couldn't get the Mega Drive out of the box. And was getting
I don't know if that was a prank call. That sounded bloody serious to me, mate.
It sounded serious. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I'm sure there would have been a lot of prank callers to us. Well, we didn't.
Because it was just a local Sydney call, wasn't it? So,
Yeah.
I've actually tried calling that number now. It's just non-existent. There's nothing. It's dead.
The building doesn't exist.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm mindful of the time. But when I started there, it was a brick old red building. Had to get in a dodgy side exit, go up and into the building. There was no grand office with a big Sega logo or anything like that. I was actually kind of disappointed when I first saw that. It's like, I was kind of hoping there would be, because when I first went there was no Sonic. It was just still Ozisoft. But I knew that like they were the distributors of Sega games. But I was expecting a Sega logo or a Wonder Boy or something out the front. Nothing. It was just all professional, I guess, in that sense, that they were just there to make money. It was a business.
It was just a business. Yes.
Yeah. The whole thing of showing up, showing off for social media and promoting wasn't really a thing until, I guess, when Sonic came along. Sonic was the first game to really get these guys to start promoting heavily. I think that they were doing marketing, but not in anywhere near the level of 91 onwards. So
and it was a distributor. It wasn't a subsidiary of Sega or any Sega Ozisoft, but it was merely a distributor of the games and systems. So I don't think they had that same sort of impetus to present as Sega as you would find in other sort of territories.
But moving along, we did move to a more fancy building with modern security. I remember having that key.
That's right.
What was it? It was a card, wasn't it? That you stuck in, the little blue disc, plastic disc.
Yeah.
Which was futuristic for that time.
It's just a little blue slit.
Yeah, and we went to. Is that building gone now?
Yeah, it's all apartments now. I think apartments and now.
That's sad.
Sheridan. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't exist anymore.
We should have a commemorative plaque there.
Yes. Let's fundraise this. Let's do it. Crowdfund it.
Crowdfunding.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next question. Thank you very much, Top Loader, for that one. This next one is from Goff, or Goffiso. I call him Goff for short. Goff, what have you got for us, matey?
Hello, Sega gods. I have just one question. As I'm a huge fan of video game soundtracks, what is your favourite Sega soundtrack? And within that soundtrack, is there a particular song that you like? Be very interested to know.
Okay. Thanks, Goff. That's very short, very brief, but straight to the point. I've got an answer, but I'll let you guys go first. And don't say Sonic. It can't be Sonic. Really?
I'm a big fan of, and I have that nostalgia for classic arcade games as well. So anything that was ported from the arcade to the Mega Drive, I still sort of love. And I still can't go past, to this day, Outrun. And I think it's the track Splash Wave, which I just love. And I still love, and I still listen to occasionally if I get it up on YouTube. But that, for me, also Space Harrier. I love the music in that. Although with the Mega Drive, it was only Space Harrier 2 that arrived on that system, so I don't think the soundtrack was quite the same.
Who was the composer? He doesn't know. He went by the name of Bo, B-O. But I don't know his actually. Yeah, I don't know his formal name, but he always signed off on the credits as Bo. But I remember seeing whenever I saw at the end credits his name appear, it'd be like, oh, cool, he's done another track. So, yeah. It was legendary. It was one of the first games, I think, that came out where the soundtrack was really memorable. You know what I mean? The Outrun one. Yeah. Nick, got something?
I couldn't think of anything specific, to be honest with you. I sort of had a listen to a few things, and nothing came to mind. I don't know why. But,
No, okay.
yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go just Sonic.
No, okay. Gads?
First level of Fantasy Zone. I don't know why. Just sticks in the brain. Yeah.
It is kind of their cute. It's how does it go?
I'm not talking anymore.
I can see a YouTube remix of that.
I got to go a little more forward into the future, and Jet Set Radio, the soundtrack on that is just off the chart.
Oh, yes.
It is such both Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Grind is the second one. Jet Set Radio Future, sorry. Yeah. So they're both epic titles for the soundtrack, and but Sega's had one thing I can say about Sonic titles, as bad as some of the Sonic games got, always the saving grace was the soundtrack. No matter how bad the game got, the soundtrack was always maintained a level of excellence. So that was one thing about that. Tommy's answered Musha. It's not a Sega game though. It's compiled, but you're right. It is the best soundtrack on a Mega Drive game in my opinion as well. Have you guys played Musha at least?
Nah.
No.
You guys have not played Mega Drive. That's it. Oh. It is that good a game. It is such a good shooter.
But you just said it's not a Sega game.
It's not done by Sega.
That's why we don't release it. That's why we don't play it.
Also, the fact that it goes for about $300 or $200 is a bit of a deal breaker. It's going to be on the Sega Mega Drive Mini, but only the Japanese release. Frustrating. Does it count if it's emulated? No. Oh, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't know what that reference is. Oh, Crazy Taxi? But yeah, that's a soundtrack. Yeah. It's not original content. Yeah. Okay, personal jinx. But no, thanks for that question. We're going to rock right along. We've got Uncle Chunt is next with question number 9. Uncle Chunt, take it away.
Ahoy hoy, I'm Uncle Chunt, and it is my pleasure to hopefully be included within this video. I have a question, and I must know. Altered Beast, an old-time favourite of mine way back in the day. The end of the first level, there is a demon face-throwing beast. Did you guys get any calls on how to beat that villain? And did you suggest this little one blade of grass that can save you from any trouble? And they all miss you. All the faces, they miss you. Please tell me you got calls about how to beat that. And was that the advice that you gave out? Was that an official thing? Or did people just have to find that out? I have to know, because when my brother and we found out, we were like, oh my god, this became so much easier. And then every boss after that had a little trick. I must know. Please answer my question.
Okay, thank you, Uncle Chunt. Altered Beast, did we? I don't really think we got any. No. I'm going to give that a wide berth and say no. Nope.
Too easy.
Not for that one.
No. But we did get calls for Sonic Level 1, how to beat the first boss. Because there were people that were probably new to video games and didn't get the concept of the mechanics of Sonic, that when you jump, you become a weapon. Never said that out loud before.
You are the weapon.
You are the weapon. Sonic was the more common one, but the most common call, guys. Can you recite the code?
Ready? I don't want to because I'm gonna.
All right. 3.
Piece of fetal.
Sun, waves, moon, star, sun, moon, waves, fish, starfish.
Starfish.
It's like singing the national anthem. Stopping and being good.
Yeah, that was the most common call we got all the time, was how to get past the final room in Alex Kidd in Miracle World. And you would sense the call, what it was about, before they even got to explaining. Yeah. I'm in a room. Right, that's it. I'm good.
I'm playing Alex Kidd in Wonderland.
Yeah. No. The one that always triggered me, and it triggers me to this day. Alex the Kid. Oh,
too soon. Too soon.
It just triggered me something horrid and.
That was the dads that were playing in them during the day.
Blinders! Oh, yeah, you can imagine their big, gritty hands on this small little Master System controller breaking it. Oh, jeez. What do you mean, fish? What's fish? Oh, that fish!
Slow down.
Slow down, I'm writing this down. Alex the Kid. Someone wrote. Okay.
Alex the Kid.
But no, I'm going to test that theory of yours about the pixel. There's one little place apparently where you can rest and not get hit. There's no timer on that game, so you could just basically put the controller down. Oh no, I think you got to crouch though. I think crouching in that little spot is the
okay.
Yeah, on that first enemy. Did you know they made a 3D replica of that first level boss that you can get as a statue?
Oh, really?
I've tried to find it. It's super expensive and it's just such a hideous looking. It's only something that true Sega fans would look at and go, oh yeah.
Here's a shower thought. If they release Alex Kid today, would he be called Alex Adult?
No, it would be Alex Emo Teenager. All right, moving on, bad jokes aside. The last question, guys, we did it. Lucas from the Aussie Gaming Experience. Oops, I better get back to my questions. Lucas, please take it away.
G'day Sega Masters, my name is Lucas and I'm from the Aussie Gamers Experience and I have a question for all of you today. First of all, do you like my t-shirt? I wore it especially considering we're talking about the Sega Hotline days. I wore a t-shirt that kind of looks like it's from the 90s. What do you think? But anyway, my question for all of you is, do you guys have any memorabilia that you may have just swiped from the desks or the walls or the back cupboard or anything like that from your days at the Sega Hotline? Maybe on your last day you've just gone, you know what, I'm taking that stapler. I'm taking that Sonic the Hedgehog poster. I'm taking that Sega Mega Drive. Do you guys have anything like that? I'd like to know if you've got any like kleptomania in your... Hopefully, maybe there's a statute of limitations. You won't get in trouble now because it's been so long. But that's my question. Thanks for hearing me out, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the show. Cheers.
Thank you there, Lucas, for that one. I didn't steal anything. I was too honest. I wanted to. The thought did cross my mind. Tim, you got an answer for this one.
I think we were pretty well looked after on the hotline, and we could, if we wanted to buy anything, there was a good staff discount. I don't know, I remember the ROM cupboard, and obviously we could take the ROMs, and I always wondered what happened to those at the end of the day. But what would we do with them? And I do remember though, at Sega Ozisoft, there were in the skip bin, and this is my own personal experience. I was into PC gaming as well, and often there'd be
loads of discs,
loads of boxes, and I'd sort of marry up discs that may have been faulty or may not have worked with boxes, and sort of I built up quite a nice collection
I've still got some of those discs, and I used them as blanks. To copy games for the Mega Drive, ironically enough.
They were going to be thrown out anyway, and I was I loved going through and sort of fishing out stuff for my collection. I don't have any of it anymore, sadly, but I think for the most part, we were pretty well looked after. I think we loved what we did and didn't see a need to think to steal anything and jeopardize our jobs there.
That's a boring answer, but it's true. I never really got tempted to steal anything. There were times when I wondered, what would it be like to have some of those ROMs? That was the only time that it ever entered my mind. But no, I never did get tempted to steal things because we were being given. Oh, here it is. Duh. Okay. So this is the one I keep showing up. This is a cart that was given to me. It's got the Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And the reason why it's all battered up is because I would actually take it with me to road shows and have it in my pocket. so it got beaten up over the years. And this was given to us at least 2-3 months in advance before it got released, and it was made in Australia, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
So we were making this that far in advance. We had the game complete, ready, at least 2 or 3 months out from official release. And I think that was all thanks to Al Nilsson, who's been on this channel, by the way, former marketing head of Sega of America. It was his brainchild to, I credit him for it. He probably won't take the credit, but it was his idea to have it a worldwide single-day Sonic Tuesday release. And it was the way that gaming would go in the future. It took a few years for it to be adapted by everyone, but he revolutionized that, I think. Most other companies, there'll be years apart between the Japanese release and then the local release here in Australia. I mean, Street Fighter 2, for example, on Super Nintendo, I had that at least a year out before it got released here locally, and in some ways Mattel's distributing of games in Australia for the Super Nintendo was kind of why the Mega Drive was doing so well, is because they were just hopeless. They were really slack when it came to bringing out the big gun games that they needed to get out here in this country to compete with the Mega Drive. So I think Mattel kind of helped Sega Ozisoft in a way that way.
But yeah, I think Tim, the only thing you stole, Gads, was single mum's hearts. That was it.
How long have you been holding on to that one for?
I got a feeling he did steal something. Okay.
I didn't steal because they were chucking them out, and that's the Sonic key rings.
Hey.
There we go.
Oh, awesome.
Only 6 left now. Last one was Hex and that kid, Ben, at the HUDCon, the autistic bloke.
He snuck into my video, the last video. He's kind of in there for a brief second or two, but he turned up he turned up to the HUDCon in he turned up in a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt, reciting lines from the cartoons and just asking questions at 1,000,000 miles per hour. He was full on.
Amazing.
He was, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. He was full on. It was like the only way I could describe it was trying to have a conversation, say, with Robin Williams, just trying to keep up. He was that quick.
He's a great kid.
But all right, well, that's the end of our questions. We don't have anything else we knocked off. I'm so sorry. I would love to have told you, yes, we got a secret version of Streets of Rage 4 that never made a release or something like that. No, we don't have any. We don't have any cool stories like that, unfortunately. But I hope you got a bit of an idea of what it was like to have the best job in the world.
It was pretty cool.
Have we got any plans? We haven't got anything we can reveal to the public yet, have we?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Watch this space. That's all I will say. Watch Since Spacies space.
Yeah.
But Nick, do you have any plans on going to YouTube at all?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think so. But I'm more than happy to jump in and have a chat with you anytime. But
is there anything you want to plug or promote? This is your chance to push something, or not really.
No. I think I think it'll just sort of happen organically. I don't need to sort of. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. It's just weird because normally the guests on my channel, they take up so much time, and I've got this video and I've got that video, so this is different for me to have someone that's no, I haven't got anything. It's all good. Tim, Gads, what have you got coming up? Anything?
Well, other than my my dating line after today's show, Tim, Australian Gigolo. No, I'm just doing my usual thing on Twitter, and I'll do my monthly review on YouTube of what I've done. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter, you know where I am. Look at this.
Graphic will
link
be down
or
below
graphic,
on YouTube.
graphic
Yep.
Or there,
Okay.
or there, or somewhere.
Yeah, it'll be down. It'll be down.
Yeah,
All right. And well, we've missed the HubCon here. What have you got coming up at HubCon that we could perhaps have a look at?
Well, we've got planning is starting for the next HubCon event as
Yes!
we speak, which is exciting. So hopefully we'll have many years.
You used it.
Many years of,
I used
classic
it,
gaming.
finally.
Hopefully gaming will be a big part of it, and classic gaming a big part of it as well. But I'm not I don't really have time as much as I'd love to. I've got a main cabinet project that's been sitting here for years, and I've got a couple of weeks off now that I want to sort of finally finish. But I am on Twitter, and welcome anyone to I did post there this morning, and I'll try and sort of share things that I love about vintage gaming and things like that. So I welcome anyone to to connect with me that way. And thanks, Brian. This has been awesome.
No, I'm glad to have hosted that, and to be quite honest, this whole thing's been worth it just to hear that Gadler story.
I'm the butt of everyone's joke.
No, I kind of feel sorry for you though. I'm just picturing. I think. Come on, we've all kind of been in that situation where someone's making advances on you, and you're just like, okay, I got to hit the eject button.
You were getting handsy. You were getting very handsy at HubCon, Brian. Just saying.
I can't help myself. All right. Well, for here on Since Spacies, I don't have any immediate. I will try and get on with the gaming Since Spacies video. I think I've got to get on with that. The next video in that series is 1983, talking about the big games that came out in 1983, etc. Oh, we've got a cat. We've got a cat on the video.
Cut.
So yeah, I will be I'll be announcing anything big when it comes to us four. We're kind of like a band now. So ever since that Reddit thing went live,
I'm Paul.
Apparently I'm Ringo. I don't know how that ever came about.
You guys are the Beatles.
All right.
Since Ringo.
So I hope you guys enjoyed our little look back on the Sega Hotline. There might be more stuff coming out soon, and if there is, we'll be announcing it on the channel. Until then, my name has been Brian, and I've been gaming since Spacies. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having us. Goodbye.
Since Spacies.